Chapter 6028. Yu Linfeng's face, which was as warm as the wind, rippled with a comfortable smile. His bright eyes were like stars. I originally thought that our cultivation speed was already fast enough, but who would have thought that your cultivation speed would be even faster? Ever since they came to the D family, they had been cultivating in seclusion for the sake of increasing their cultivation as quickly as possible. As their elders, they couldn't keep dragging them down. However, they had spent so much time and accumulated countless cultivation resources to increase their cultivation speed. Yet, these little fellows had gone out to gain experience, yet their cultivation speed was much faster than theirs. It was simply terrifying. Master, you're already in the Nebula realm. No one dares to say your cultivation speed is slow. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled sweetly. Her lovable appearance made everyone's mood unconsciously improve. If we weren't lucky enough to encounter the divine statue this time, it would be impossible for us to increase our cultivation like this. Bewitching and I have already discussed this. Now that you're in the Nebula realm, the family will often have opportunities to go out and gain experience. After coming to the upper realm, you've always stayed in the family and haven't gone to many places. Go out and gain experience and relax. Who knows, your cultivation might increase even faster. Even though she had been cultivating all this time, she had always been concerned about her parents' situation. Cultivating in seclusion would increase their cultivation speed, but they also needed to relax. Originally, they could also go to the abandoned immortal forest, but it was very dangerous. Recently, cultivators from the immortal region often appeared there. Even they couldn't guarantee that they could escape unscathed if they encountered them. Nebula Realm cultivators had even less of a chance. Lan Yunxiao and the others looked at each other. In truth, they also felt that their cultivation speed had slowed recently. After staying here for so long, they also wanted to go out and take a look. If there's a suitable opportunity, we'll go take a look. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded with a smile. Although Lan Yunxiao was her father, it wouldn't be a problem for him to go out and gain experience with the others. A cultivator's lifespan would increase as their strength increased. Even in the D family, there were many cultivators of the same age. None of them gave up on increasing their strength. Almost every once in a while, the D family would organize people to go out and gain experience. This was because experience was often the best medicine to increase one's strength. Hongzhuang, the medicine you took out this time seems to be different from the last time. Nangong Wu looked at the medicine in her hand. The color was completely different. After using the potions earlier, she realized how effective they were. Without these potions, their speed of improvement would not be as fast as it was now. However, at that time, although Hongzhuang had given them a lot of potions, the speed at which they used them was extremely fast. They had not used them for quite a long time. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. The effect of the medicine this time will be better than the previous one. The usage method is still the same. The medicinal bath will help to relax the body and improve the cultivation. Understood. Nangongwu raised her eyebrows slightly. Hongzhuang, your medical skills seem to have improved recently. Although I don't know much about this potion, I've heard people say that this potion of yours is amazing. In the entire upper realm, I'm afraid that we're the only ones who have used this potion. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Recently, I have indeed been learning medical skills. When my medical skills are higher, everyone's cultivation will be easier. Chapter 6029. Bailey Hongzhuang's clear eyes lit up when she sensed his deep concern. She walked over to Lan Yunxiao's side and sat down. Father, don't worry. I'm fine. You're a girl, yet you're so tired all the time. My heart aches when I see you like this. It was already very difficult for him to cultivate on a daily basis, not to mention that he had to study medical skills. Everyone seemed to have it easy, but as her father, he knew how hard Hongzhuang worked. Otherwise, how could she have mastered so many things at such a young age? Mu Lingbing noticed Lan Yunxiao's pained expression, and her heart softened. They only had one daughter, and their biggest wish was for Hongzhuang to live happily. I really like my current life. As long as you're happy, I'm happy. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. She was never someone who didn't know how to be content. Now that her family, lover, and friend were all by her side, what was there for her to be dissatisfied with? Although her daily cultivation was tiring, she liked this feeling of fulfillment. She hoped that no matter what kind of danger she faced, she would have the ability to protect the people she cared about. Everyone was delighted when they noticed Bailey Hongzhuang's smile that spread from the bottom of her heart. Perhaps in other people's eyes, Hongzhuang was truly blessed, but they understood that all of this was related to Hongzhuang's hard work. When Di Yujue took the medicine from Di Beichun, he was also surprised. Hongzhuang refined it. Di Beichun nodded. Hongzhuang said that these medicines can be used as rewards for the younger generation. As for the medicine you all use during cultivation, she will refine it when her medical skills improve. Di Yujue smiled and patted Di Beichun's shoulder. His voice was filled with joy. You stinking brat. I really don't know where your good fortune came from to be able to find such a good wife like Hongzhuang. Father, you can't be envious of this. Di Beichun shrugged. Scram. Di Yujue waved his hand. Brat, you even dare to make fun of your father. Di Beichun chuckled and asked, Any news from the Jun family? Your judgment is correct. Jun Lingxuan is not coming back. The Jun family should be in a gloomy state right now. Jun Hongcheng is probably so anxious that his hair is about to fall out. Di Yujue's eyes flashed with a trace of ruthlessness and decisiveness. Now that the Jun family has suffered a great blow, the Xiao family seems to be on the verge of breaking off relations with them. We'll destroy the Jun family first once we officially break off our relationship with them. That way, we'll be able to put an end to all the grudges that have existed for so many years. After so many years of enmity, it was no longer something that could be explained in a few words. They had long since become irreconcilable enemies. Now that they had the advantage of time, place, and people, they naturally wouldn't show mercy. If the situation had been reversed, the Jun family wouldn't have shown any mercy either. There was no need to say anything else. The Xiao family wants to break off relations with the Jun family. Di Beichun's voice was indifferent and emotionless. That's right. Di Yujue's lips carried a trace of ridicule. Now that the situation has changed greatly, the Xiao family can only make such a decision if they want to find a way to survive. If the Xiao family asks for peace, what do you plan to do? Betrayal is betrayal in the end. Being forced to surrender is deceit. Di Yujue's eyes were deep, reflecting a sharp light. Di Beichun nodded. Then I don't need to worry. The Jun family situation was within his expectations. It was just that the speed of their collapse seemed to be faster than he thought. Chapter 60-30. I've never doubted my father's decisions, Di Beichun said slowly. Di Yujue looked at Di Beichun's old-fashioned appearance and was too lazy to say anything more. This guy was clearly his younger brother, but he looked much more mature than Xiaofeng. Just as the two were talking, Di Xiaofeng's figure suddenly appeared in their line of sight. Di Beichun, you're here too. Di Xiaofeng's face lit up. That's great. I don't have to run over to inform you later. Big brother, what happened? Big news. Di Xiaofeng's expression became serious. I just heard the news. You definitely won't be able to guess what happened. Don't keep us in suspense. What happened? Di Yujue's eyes narrowed. Right now, he was planning to find the right time to uproot the Jun family. He didn't want any more complications to arise at this time. I'm afraid the Xiao family and the Jun family won't break off their relationship. Di Xiaofeng's expression was a bit heavy. This wasn't good news for them. The reason why he had such an expression was because this matter was too shocking. Di Yujue's expression changed when he heard this. What happened? He already understood a lot of the current situation. This break was imperative. Logically speaking, there shouldn't be any waves. Xiao Shou is pregnant. Di Xiaofeng's words were like a heavy bomb that exploded in Di Beichun's and Di Yujue's hearts. The two's expressions froze for a moment with a bit of disbelief. Xiao Shou is pregnant? At this moment, even Di Beichun couldn't help but be surprised. She's pregnant with Jun Lingxuan's child? Di Yujue's expression became very ugly. If it was anything else, there might be a turning point. But if Xiao Shou was pregnant with Jun Lingxuan's child, then this alliance couldn't be broken up. Even if Jun Lingshuan had already fallen, the child in Xiao Sou's arms was the only flesh and blood he left behind. Presumably, Xiao Yanlong was also extremely shocked when he heard this news, but he couldn't ignore Xiao Sou's face. Previously, Jun Lingshuan and Xiao Sou were indeed engaged, but they weren't married yet. Now that Xiao Sou was pregnant with his child, their reputation wouldn't be good. If they broke off with the Jun family at this time, Xiao Sou would have no future. With how much Xiao Yanlong loved Xiao Yanlong, he probably wouldn't be able to make the decision to ignore it. Di Xiaofeng nodded. This news is very secretive. Our spies found it with great difficulty. It is said that Xiao Yanlong had already made up his mind to break off relations with the Jun family, but after this incident, he has not left the house for a few days. It seems that there's a change in this matter. Di Beichen's voice was slightly heavy. This matter was beyond everyone's expectations, but the one who was the most shocked was Xiao Yanlong. I'm afraid we'll have to consider this matter at length. The three of them looked at each other and felt helpless. The whole plan was disrupted just like that. Father, even if they form an alliance, we don't have to be afraid. Di Beichen's expression was calm. Originally, after the Xiao family had done so many excessive actions, they didn't plan to coexist peacefully with the Xiao family. They were only prepared to break them one by one. Now that they were together, although the process would become a lot more troublesome, the result would still be the same. Chapter 60:31. Di Yujue turned around and saw Di Beichen's determined expression. His heart trembled slightly. It seemed that Di Beichen was also determined in this aspect. I'm not afraid, but it'll be more troublesome. Di Yujue frowned and fell into deep thought. Dealing with them is inevitable, but before that, we have to try and see if we can open the land of heritage. As soon as he said that, Di Beichen and Di Xiaofeng looked at each other. They were also very curious about the land of heritage. It was an inheritance that belonged to the Di family, but it required 3 families to work together. He originally thought that once the alliance between the Xiao family and the Jun family was broken, it would be very easy for him to obtain the secret key from the Jun family. But now it was probably not appropriate to directly seize it. In addition, the Dark Sanctuary was about to be established soon. It would not be good to cause more trouble at this time. Father, why don't Hong Zhuang and I try and see if our blood can open the land of heritage? Di Beichen said slowly. He had never come into contact with the land of heritage, but he had a faint feeling that they might really be able to open it. Your blood, Di Yujue pondered and said, I also think that it's feasible, but even if your blood can awaken the land of heritage, the 3 secret keys must be combined to open the door to the land of heritage. So before that, I need to think about how to solve this problem. Di Beichen nodded slightly. He understood this point. If it really didn't work, he would directly abolish the Jun family and the Xiao family. However, the 2 old foxes, Jun Hongcheng and Xiao Yanlong, would definitely be on guard. Actually, the land of heritage hasn't been open for a long time. It's also been a long time since a cultivator with a cursed body appeared in the family. Beichen, your appearance made me feel that the opportunity to open the land of heritage has arrived. Now everything is making me feel that the possibility is getting higher and higher. This is the family's secret that has been passed down to this day. I believe that after you go in, you will definitely gain a lot. So you must not give up this opportunity. Even if we have to keep them here for a while, we won't hesitate. Opening the secret realm is the most important thing. Di Yujue's expression was serious. Because the Di family had the land of heritage, the cultivation talents of the clansmen would be favored by the ancestors. This was also the reason why the Di family had always been so powerful. It was just that the land of heritage had not been open for too long, so this advantage was gradually disappearing. Luck was something that couldn't be explained in words. In the past, he felt that the luck of the Di family was gradually dissipating. But with the return of Beichen and Hong Zhuang, he felt that the luck of the Di family had returned. Not only had he returned, but he was also becoming stronger and stronger. With this sort of powerful fate, there were many things that he did not dare to do in the past that he did not have to worry about. Because karmic luck was such a mysterious thing. With its help, everything would proceed much more smoothly. Looking at Di Yujue's bright eyes, Di Beichen's lips also raised into a smile. Father, no matter what, we will support your decision. He understood that, as the head of the family, his father had to consider many more things than them. But no matter what, they would not question Di Yujue's decision. That's right, you can rest assured. Our Di family is no longer the same as before. The Holy Maiden of Light and the Holy Son of Darkness are with us. What do we have to be afraid of? Di Xiaofeng chuckled. Holy Son of Darkness. Chapter 6032. When Bailey Hongzhuang first took out the medicine, Di Yujue had given a portion of it as a reward for the outstanding disciples. Therefore, many cultivators in the Di family knew that this medicine was extremely effective. Cultivating, while soaking in the medicinal bath, was much faster than usual. Moreover, the refined elemental energy was very pure and could even subtly refine the elemental energy in the body. When they first received this medicine, everyone felt that it was strange. After all, most medicines were only effective in the early stages of cultivation. As one's strength increased, the medicine would no longer be effective. However, this medicine had completely overturned their judgment. Its effects were better than they had imagined. As a cultivator in the Di family, everyone knew that the most important thing was not the improvement in front of them, but the space for their future development. As long as there was unlimited space for development, it didn't matter if they had to spend more time. If one's cultivation speed was too fast, their elemental energy would not be pure enough, and their foundation would not be stable enough. These were problems that almost every cultivator would encounter. Because there was competition everywhere in life, sometimes they had no choice but to ignore these hidden dangers. However, when they realized that this medicine could gradually solve the hidden dangers in their bodies, their hearts were filled with joy. The only regrettable thing was that there was not a lot of medicine and the family did not have any other way to obtain it. Otherwise, they would not hesitate to pay a higher price. It was only when everyone knew that this medicine was concocted by the young mistress that they completely understood. Perhaps only the young mistress's medical skills could concoct such an amazing medicine. If it was anyone else, they would not be able to do it. The young mistress had gone to the ancient battlefield to train, so they naturally did not have this medicine. This time, when everyone knew that the family had another medicine as a reward, they immediately understood that it must be the young mistress's doing. Most importantly, from the news that spread, they understood that this medicine was more effective than the previous ones. Immediately, all the cultivators began to work hard in their cultivation in order to obtain this medicine. Yujue, the disciples in the family, seemed to be working harder in their cultivation recently. Di Linxian looked at the prosperous scene of the Di family and felt comforted. After Beichen and Di Yujue returned, the family situation was really getting better. Even though everyone was usually very hard-working, he could still feel that everyone was working even harder. Di Yujue's eyes were also filled with satisfaction. Speaking of which, this matter is all thanks to Hongzhuang. Is it that medicine? Di Linxian had heard about the medicine long ago. He had a deep understanding of his granddaughter-in-law's medical skills. Back then, there were countless people who came because of Hongzhuang's reputation. They were either stopped by them or asked Dr. Wu for help. This medicine was only circulated within the family. If it were to spread out, it would probably cause another wave. Di Yujue nodded. That's right. The effect of this medicine is excellent. The younger generation is working hard to cultivate in order to obtain this medicine. Hongzhuang is really a smart girl. Di Linxian sighed and said, "This is also due to your contributions. If you didn't have the courage to reject the Shao clan back then, this wouldn't have happened." Chapter 6033. If they had chosen to have a marriage alliance with the Shao family, then the situation would have been different. Di Yujue chuckled, his gaze deep and distant. Actually, this was Beichen's choice. With Beichen's feelings for Hongzhuang, if we asked him to give up on Hongzhuang, I'm afraid he would abandon us. A smile appeared in Di Yujue's eyes. He understood Beichen's character very well. Perhaps he had taken after him. Being born into a family, it was already very difficult for him to cultivate. If he couldn't even let his feelings follow his heart, then what was the point of living and pursuing? It was because of this that he had never thought of restricting his child's feelings. Even when he was engaged to the Xiao family, he didn't say that it was a dead end. He had also said that the most important thing was to see his child's wishes. If the D family wasn't in a disadvantageous situation back then, he wouldn't have chosen to have a marriage alliance. Following Di Yujue's words, Di Linxian couldn't help but laugh. I agree with what you said. Even if Beichen was wholeheartedly doing it for the family, they were very clear that none of them could compare to Hong Zhuang in his heart. Haha, Di Yujue laughed. That's why I said that Beichen has the best taste. While the D family's cultivators were working hard to obtain the medicine, Bailey Hong Zhuang and the others were also working hard to cultivate in the abandoned immortal forest. They only cultivated one move every day, but everyone's progress was very fast. Now, everyone could use this move, but there was still a gap between them and how easy it was to use it, as Senior Yu had said. Everyone could clearly feel their progress. Every day that they practiced, their speed would increase by a bit. Although they still couldn't control their strength easily, under the influence of others, everything was quietly improving. Bailey Hongzhuang studied medicine every night, while Di Beichen began to study formations. Previously, he was already quite interested in formations. His wife was so skilled in so many methods, so he had to work hard. Beichen, you've been studying formations quite seriously recently. When Xiren looked at Di Beichen teasingly, do you feel a sense of crisis because Hong Zhuang is too outstanding? Bai Li Yin She also smiled and said, there is no danger in the upper realm, but once you go to the immortal realm, there will be countless powerful geniuses. Big Sister is so beautiful, so it's easy for her to get into trouble. In addition, she's so outstanding. When the time comes, she'll definitely be like a crazy bee and a butterfly. You won't be able to stop her. It's only right for her to feel a little threatened. Di Beichen turned to look at the two guys who were looking at him with interest. From their expressions, he sensed that they wanted to see the world in chaos. He continued to practice the formation and said unhurriedly, one of you is despised by Madam, and the other hasn't won her heart yet. How can you understand my happiness? I didn't say it because I didn't want to hurt you. When Xiren and Bai Li Yin-che looked at each other, their original playfulness had completely disappeared. They suppressed the urge to beat him up and turn around. They'd better continue to soak in the medicinal bath. No one could compare to this guy when he was showing off his happiness. Di Beichen's lips slowly curled into a teasing smile. His eyes, which were as deep as the sea, were filled with seriousness. Under the light, his devilishly charming face became even more noble, exuding a charming charm. Chapter 6034. Without sufficient power, how could he protect his loved ones? In the past, he always felt that he was extremely hard-working in his cultivation. However, after meeting Hong Zhuang, he felt that she was the one who was truly hard-working. They were a match made in heaven. As her husband, how could he not follow in his wife's footsteps? According to what his master told him previously, once he grasped a high-level formation, his combat power would increase greatly. Formations had many uses. As long as it was used properly, it could be used in a normal battle. From the time he faced the skeleton of the training ground, he already understood the use of formations. All these days, he had not put down his formations. However, learning formations was not an easy task. Every formation required him to deliberate carefully. As long as he was careless during the construction, it would result in failure. As for high-level formations, it was even more complicated. A formation was made up of many small formations. Finally, these small formations were gathered together. During this process, as long as there was a slight mistake, it would result in the failure of the formation. Fortunately, the knowledge that his master left behind for him was very impressive. It allowed him to avoid many detours when he was studying. Now, he could already construct many formations. He believed that there would be some use. If he wanted to fight against cultivators of the same level, he still needed to work hard on his formations. Learning formations was actually similar to learning medical skills. Learning medical skills required one to understand the uses and effects of various medicinal herbs. Only then could one be able to concoct high-level medicine with ease. The most important part of learning array formations was the simple, small array formations, because every large array formation was made up of small array formations. The initial learning was the most difficult. The more familiar one was with it, the faster one would improve. The sky was clear and the clouds were beautiful. The birds were chirping and the flowers were fragrant. Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest stood on the river as usual, practicing their sword moves. As their control over their elemental energy increased, everyone was shocked to find that they could stand on the river for a longer time with the same amount of elemental energy. However, before they could cultivate for long, a heavy sound was heard from behind. Following, there was a voice filled with impatience. Their line of sight turned and saw a humongous imperial wind horse elephant walking over slowly. There was a mystic fire demon rock following closely beside it. It was obviously trying to please it. "Why are you always following me?" Flowery looked at Xiao Xuanzi impatiently. She really had to hand it to this guy. What sin had he committed? This fellow would come looking for it whenever it had nothing to do, making it unable to stay still. "I saw that you were too lonely, so I wanted to accompany you," little Xuanzi said matter-of-factly, as if he didn't feel Little Blossom's disdain at all. "I don't feel lonely." Little Blossom didn't give him any face at all. "I feel lonely. Is that okay?" Little Xuanzi moved closer to Little Blossom, and his face was full of smiles. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at each other. They understood that Xiao Xuanzi really liked Xiaohua. When Xiao Xuanzi saw Little Flower for the first time, it was love at first sight. When they were in the ancient battlefield, Little Xuanzi had been hoping to come back as soon as possible. He had not seen it for a few days, so he must have gone to look for Little Blossom. Chapter 6035. Zhong Limu. Little Blossom walked to Zhong Limu's side. She really regretted coming to find Zhong Limu a while ago to provoke such a follower. This guy had been following her for the past few days. No matter how she attacked him, he didn't seem to feel anything at all. It was as if the person she was talking about wasn't him. This feeling made her very sullen. How could a wind-riding horse elephant like her be with a mystical fire demonic rock? Although the mystical fire demonic rock's level was very high, this guy was obviously younger than her. "Little Blossom, what's wrong?" Zhong Limu went ashore and looked at Little Blossom with a smile. Before Bewitching and the others came, Little Blossom was his only friend. "Zhong Limu, I really can't stand this guy anymore. Help me get rid of him." Hearing this, Zhong Limu was slightly stunned. His expression was a bit awkward. Although he didn't know much about love, from everyone's conversation, he understood that Little Xuanzi was like this because he had a good impression of Little Blossom. Rejecting Little Xuanzi like this without giving him any hope was a bit too cruel. Looking at Zhong Limu's awkward expression, Little Blossom sighed. She didn't want to hurt this guy, but she really didn't feel anything. "Little Xuanzi, right?" Little Blossom slowly said. Little Xuanzi nodded. "You remember my name." Little Blossom paused, then continued. "You and I are not suitable. You haven't even transformed into a human form. I don't like demonic beasts that are weaker than me." Little Xuanzi let out a sigh of relief. "I thought you were going to say something. Actually, I could transform into a human form long ago. You can rest assured." Little Blossom's eyes were filled with astonishment. Little Xuanzi had been by her side for a few days, including before. She had never seen Little Xuanzi transform into a human form. She always thought that Little Xuanzi was still young and his strength hadn't reached this step yet. "You don't believe me?" Noticing Little Blossom's expression, Little Xuanzi quickly said, "If you don't believe me, I can prove it to you." In the next moment, Little Xuanzi transformed into a young man in front of everyone's eyes. The young man wore a navy blue satin brocade robe, and a bright blue silver belt with a python pattern was tied around his waist. He had a head full of thick black hair and a pair of bright eyes like the stars. His face was filled with a sense of intimacy. Little Xuanzi was different from Bai Li Yin-che's tall and straight. He had a round body, but he wasn't ugly. When he smiled, his eyes narrowed into slits, and his entire being was filled with an indescribable affinity. Long ago, everyone already knew that the reason why Xiao Xuanzi was unwilling to transform into a human was because he was fat, but they didn't know what kind of fat method it was. Little Blossom's charm is really great. Previously, we tried all kinds of methods, but couldn't make Little Xuanzi reveal his true body. Little Blossom only needed to say one sentence, and Little Xuanzi directly revealed his human body. Little Xuanzi has always valued his lover over his friends. You should be used to it. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. This situation was also out of her expectations. But thanks to Little Blossom, they finally saw Little Xuanzi's true appearance. Chapter 6036. This kind of fatness was not as serious as he made it out to be. Xiao He and Xiao Bai were also disappointed. They thought that they would be able to see a big round fatty. They did not expect that it was not that serious at all. Really, Little Xuanzi, there's no need to hide this kind of situation at all. I was happy for nothing. Xiao He pursed her lips. In the past, Little Xuanzi had always wanted to help Yin Che block the wild bees and butterflies after transforming into his human form. Later, he did not transform into his human form because he was fat. They had always been looking forward to it. Bailey Hongzhuang reached out and flicked Xiao He's forehead. Little Xuanzi probably knew that you would definitely ridicule him, so he did not transform into his human form. Little Xuanzi has always been very picky about his appearance. At this time, Bewitching's voice suddenly sounded. He said with a smile that did not look like a smile, "Haven't you noticed that he has even resisted the temptation of delicious food recently?" As soon as he said this, everyone was stunned. Recalling the situation during this period, they felt that Bewitching's words were indeed very reasonable. Even when they went to the Emperor Cloud City to eat and drink, Little Xuanzi did not follow them. This was completely different from Little Xuanzi's previous style. This guy was a complete glutton before he transformed into his human form. So, Little Xuanzi has been on a diet for a long time. Shangguan Yingying was slightly stunned. She really did not pay much attention to this situation before. After Bewitching's reminder, she finally remembered. I remember that when Little Xuanzi said that he was fat, he was just saying it. When he ate, he would still fight with us. What did he change? When Xiren frowned, he recalled that when Xiao Xuanzi snatched his food, he had even mocked him. This guy kept saying that he was fat, but when it came to eating, he was not careless at all. Just when did this situation start to change? He could not remember for a while. Since he saw Xiaohua, Bewitching slowly turned his gaze. Little Xuanzi was his contracted beast, so he naturally knew it best. He had already noticed the changes in Xiao Xuanzi long ago. Although he didn't know why Little Xuanzi fell in love with Little Blossom at first sight, it didn't care about him even if he was fat before it met Little Blossom. Because of this, he knew that Xiao Xuanzi really liked Flowery. Even if this feeling was somewhat unexpected, liking someone was something without a reason. Little Blossom looked at Little Xuanzi in a daze. It did not expect Little Xuanzi to have transformed into a human. Previously, he had thought of a reason with great difficulty, but now it did not seem to be persuasive. Even if he can take human form, I still don't like fatties. Flowery left behind a sentence and quickly left. In the air, Little Xuanzi's voice slowly spread out. "It's okay, I can reduce it." Looking at Little Blossom's disappearing figure, Little Xuanzi originally wanted to chase after him, but in the end he lowered his head dejectedly, looking dejected. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others felt a little uncomfortable. Normally, Xiao Xuanzi had always been very cheerful, and this was the first time he had seen him like this. That kind of sadness could be seen in his eyes. "Little Xuanzi, don't be anxious. How can you chase someone so quickly?" Xiaobai could not help but advise. Chapter 6037. Xiao He comforted him seriously. They were used to bickering with Xiao Xuanzi, so when they saw Xiao Xuanzi's sad expression, they did not know what to do. This guy was not suited to have such a sad expression. However, when Xiao He said that, Di Beichen's expression stiffened. When Xiren and the rest turned to look at Di Beichen. Speaking of which, they really did not know how Beichen had captured Hong Zhuang's heart in the past. Even when they asked in private, Di Beichen had an unfathomable look. However, Xiao He's words just now had exposed him. Beichen had actually been despised by Hong Zhuang before. Now that the evidence was irrefutable, this guy could no longer pretend to be a wolf in sheep's clothing, right? Looking at everyone's worried expression, Xiao Xuanzi suddenly chuckled, and his gloomy eyes immediately regained their luster. How can I despair so easily? It takes some time to chase a girl, not to mention that my Xiao Hua is so pretty, it's normal that it's hard to chase after her. Xiao Xuanzi raised his eyebrows slightly, and he was in high spirits, not at all frustrated. Don't worry, I'll definitely get Xiao Hua. Xiao Xuanzi, you're really wasting my feelings. Xiao He looked at Xiao Xuanzi in disdain. It was rare for it to be seriously comforted, but this guy was completely joking. Hee, after this incident, I understand that you're not heartless. Nonsense. Of course I have a conscience. After everyone was relieved, Xiren then turned his attention to Di Beichen. Beichen, I heard that you were despised when you were chasing after Hong Zhuang. Xiao He realized that it seemed to have said something wrong, and could not help but shrink its neck. It did not mean to ruin its male owner's image. Madam, when you first met me, you had a strong sense of self-preservation. Di Beichen left the sentence and jumped to the middle of the river. Stronger sense of self-protection? Xiren raised his eyebrows. What does that mean? Shang Guanying also had a thoughtful look on her face. Did they say that Hong Zhuang was unapproachable at that time? Bailey Hong Zhuang covered her face and laughed. When she first met Beichen, this guy could be described as a scoundrel. She thought that she was being haunted by a scoundrel, but later she found out what he was really like. Hong Zhuang, why don't you tell us about it? Shang Guanying turned around, her face full of curiosity. I have to hurry up and cultivate. Bailey Hong Zhuang pointed to the front. In the next moment, her figure flashed and appeared beside Di Beichen. Seeing this, Xiren and Shang Guanying rolled their eyes. The fire of gossip was burning in their hearts, but it was extinguished by these two guys with a basin of cold water. Suddenly, the two of them turned to look at Xiao He. I have to go cultivate too. Little Black ran off like a wisp of smoke. Xiao Bai, my stomach hurts a little, I'll leave first. Xiao Xuanzi, I didn't appear at that time. While Di Beichen and the rest were cultivating, Liu Jue was assessing the situation and thinking about his attitude toward the Xiao family and the Jun family. After discussing with Di Linxian, he felt that opening the Land of Heritage was the most important thing. After so many years, the Land of Heritage had not been opened. If they had the chance to see it with their own eyes, they would have no regrets in life. Chapter 6038. After communicating with Junhong Cheng and Xiao Yanlong, Di Yujue knew what they were thinking. However, it was a little troublesome for them. They want us to wait for a year. Di Linxian frowned. A year was enough for a lot of changes to happen. The Jun and Xiao families had suffered great losses. Although it would still be troublesome for them to make a move, they would have less of an advantage if they waited for a year. Di Yujue nodded. His handsome face was solemn, and his deep eyes were covered with a haze. These two old foxes know how important the Land of Heritage is to us. They also know very well that once we make a move, our families will be wiped out. As long as we make a move, they will hide the secret key forever. After so many years of dealing with them, he knew Xiao Yanlong and Jun Linchuan's personalities very well. If they were to attack, these two fellows would definitely do the same. When that happens, trouble would be inevitable. I think that the reason why they need a year is not only to buy time for their families, but also to allow Xiao Shou to give birth to the child. Di Yujue pondered. Xiao Shou's pregnancy was already set in stone. Based on Xiao Sou's current condition, it was impossible for her to participate in the exploration of the Land of Heritage. After a year, she would be able to appear in front of the world without any accidents. What you said makes sense. D. Lynchian nodded. Has the news been spread? That's not true. Apart from our spies, the Xiao family and the Jun family didn't announce this information to the public. I think that they still want to protect Xiao Sou's reputation. This must be Xiao Yanlong's idea. However, that old fellow Junhong Chung must be pushing the boat with the current. As long as this news is not spread, he can guarantee the safety of his only child. D. Lynchian sneered. Retribution is inevitable for those who have done too many bad things. As soon as he said this, D. Yujue's eyes narrowed. A fierce look flashed across his eyes. Back then, Beichen had been taken away by the Jun family not long after he was born. How could such a devoid of humanity worry about such things? Father, do you think we can agree to this? D. Yujue spoke slowly, his eyes as dark as the night. D. Lynchian gazed at the sky that was filled with red clouds. His hoarse voice gradually rang out. It's just a final struggle. So be it. Once the D family's inheritance is opened, they will be no match for us. The Xiao family. As Jun Lingxuan did not return, Jun Hongcheng was already extremely disappointed. In a short period of time, he aged a lot. He had thought that there was no more hope in life, and that perhaps he could only choose an outstanding cultivator from the other clansmen to be the young master. However, at this moment, the Xiao clan suddenly sent news that Xiao Sou was pregnant. When he heard the news, he was stunned for a long time. He even suspected that there was something wrong with his ears. Only after the other party repeated it again and again did he confirm that all of this was true. This was a pleasant surprise for him. There was always a way out. He was going to have a grandson. Hence, Junhong Chung had immediately made his way to the Xiao family. Xiao Yanlong also felt humiliated by the news of Xiao Sou's pregnancy. It had not been easy for him to think of a way out, but now it was gone. It seems that the heavens wanted to tie us to the same boat. Brother Jun, do you think that D. Yujue will agree to our conditions? Chapter 6039. Jun Hongcheng's worries were no less than Xiao Yanlong's. However, the only thing he could do now was to rope in the Xiao family. Otherwise, once the Xiao family left, the Jun family would really be finished. Fortunately, they now had a grandson as a link between them. This alliance would not fall apart so easily. He will agree. Jun Hongcheng's expression was serious. Although this land of heritage has benefits for all three of our families, and the knockout powder has always been controlled by our three families, this land of heritage belongs to the D family. Once approved by the land of heritage, the cultivators of the D family will possess a mysterious power. He will definitely not give up on such an important matter. Although this land of heritage has been passed down for many years, it has not been opened for a long time. I don't know if Di Beichun can really open it. Xiao Yanlong's expression was complicated. What they knew about the land of heritage was only the information passed down by their ancestors. Even they had not seen the real thing. Hearing this, Jun Hongqing's expression also became serious. In fact, he did not want to admit how outstanding Di Beichun was. However, he had to admit that this guy's luck was really unstoppable. Back then, he had not fallen under such circumstances. He had actually relied on his own efforts to ascend from the lower realm to the upper realm. This was already incredible. Now this guy was becoming more and more unstoppable. Coupled with his cursed body, he might really be able to open the land of heritage. Perhaps it really is possible. Xiao Yanlong sighed. It was clearly a good hand, but he had played it badly. Choices were indeed the most terrifying. Once a wrong decision was made, there was no way to make up for it. Inside the house, Xiao Sou stroked her belly. Her expression was complicated yet gentle. There was a trace of longing in her eyes. Qing Devil, why don't you come back? We even have a child. As long as you come back, we will be a complete family. She liked the Qing Devil. Even if the Qing Devil did not plan to return to the Jun family, she still liked that powerful man. As for the child in her belly, she did not regret it. She understood that everyone might criticize her situation, but she didn't care because the child's father was from the celestial realm. As long as she could see Qing Devil again in the future, she believed that Qing Devil would recognize them. Child, you have to work hard. When the time comes, we'll go and find your father together. Xiao Sou's lips curled up slightly. There was now an inseparable connection between her and the Azure Fiend. She believed that she would definitely see Qing Devil again. Bewitching wasn't surprised when he heard about the Xiao family and the Jun family's proposals. 1 year's time. This is giving the Jun family and the Xiao family some breathing room. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyes slightly. Although the Xiao family and the Jun family had lost many outstanding cultivators and it was impossible for them to fully recover in a year, it would still be troublesome. Father has his own considerations. The land of heritage is too important to the family. Bewitching looked calm. In fact, he had already guessed that his father would make such a decision. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. The land of heritage is so magical. It will definitely be a surprise when it is opened. Although we can't take action immediately, they won't be much of a threat to us if we give them 1 year's time. Bewitching smiled and held Bailey Hongzhuang in his arms. She also rested her head on his arm. Chapter 6040. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. In a year, the Sacred Assembly should have been established. There were many cultivators in the Dark Assembly now. Huang Futing was originally the leader, but he went to the Huangfu family to pick up his beloved girl. In addition to Huang Futing, there were a few people who were also thinking about the Sacred Assembly. When Huang Futing was not there, they would take over. Even though Bewitching spent most of his time cultivating in the abandoned immortal forest, he had always been very concerned about the Dark Assembly. As long as there was any news, the people of the Sacred Assembly would immediately come to inform him and wait for his decision. The Dark Assembly was about to be established, so there was no need to worry about the original cultivators. They could be trusted. At present, they were only preparing to establish the Dark Assembly's headquarters near Emperor Cloud City. They hadn't considered a branch yet. It was enough to have so many trustworthy people in the headquarters. Now, the main thing they needed to deal with was that once the news of the Dark Assembly's establishment spread, it would definitely cause an uproar in the upper realm. At that time, there would inevitably be a lot of unfavorable comments, but they had also made plans to deal with it. Bewitching was a darkness attribute cultivator, and this was long known. Although the establishment of the Dark Assembly subverted everyone's usual understanding and the opposition would be unprecedentedly strong, they weren't afraid. Darkness attribute cultivators had indeed done wrong for many years, but so many years had passed, and all the punishment should be over. Bewitching raised his eyebrows slightly. Huang Futing has been home for a while, so he should be coming back soon. I think his speed should be quite fast. Miss Warner has long been prepared to abandon everything and leave with him. I think that as long as he appears, Miss Warner will definitely leave with him without hesitation. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were full of joy and blessings. This Miss Warner's courage to risk everything for love was admirable. Although her family might be angry because of this, no one could say who was right and who was wrong in this kind of matter. If she was depressed for the rest of her life, it would be better to live a carefree life. What she could do for her family, she had already done. Not only Miss Warner, but Huang Fu Chun should also be able to. The corners of Bewitching's lips curled up into a faint smile. He also felt that this fellow who followed Huang Fu Ting wholeheartedly was very interesting. Although it was not of the dark attribute, following Huang Fu Ting was still a good thing. I remember him. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up. I think his character is very good. He's simple and pure. Perhaps his family has protected him too well. He doesn't seem like someone from a big family at all. After I came back, I inquired about this. Huang Fu Chun is the favored young master of the Huangfu family. Although he is young, his talent is not weak. Coupled with his aloof personality, the Huangfu clan likes him. The younger generation also doesn't want to compete with him. This is also very good. At least I can live freely and not have to worry about so many schemes. Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze was leisurely. People with this kind of character were rare and precious in their eyes. Let's go to the headquarters tomorrow and take a look. Maybe they've already returned. All right. The sun shone on the ground, full of vitality. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun left the Di family early in the morning and went to the Dark Sacred Assembly. Chapter 6041. Huang Futing, Huang Fuchun, and a beautiful figure. Although he had never seen her before, there was no doubt that she was Miss Wan. Young master, young madam. Huang Futing was pleasantly surprised when he saw Di Beichun. Are you going to the Sacred Assembly? Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun smiled at the same time. We wanted to go to the Sacred Assembly today to see if you came. We didn't expect to meet you on the way. Huang Futing was also pleasantly surprised. I just came back yesterday. It was late, so I didn't want to disturb you. Today, I wanted to tell you that I'm back. It seems that our hearts are connected. When he returned to his family this time, he didn't feel as disappointed and frustrated as before. On the contrary, the family that used to be extremely important to him was no longer so important now. He suddenly felt that he was ridiculous back then. The feeling of being abandoned by his family had lasted for a long time in his heart. He had never been able to let it go, but now he didn't know when he had completely let it go. He no longer had the same feeling as before. He even felt that he was the real him now. He didn't have to bear the expectations of his family. He could do what he liked. He was free and at ease. There were people he wanted to protect by his side. He had ideals in his heart. Everything made him happy from the bottom of his heart. Di Beichun chuckled. After being brothers for so long, we have a tacit understanding after all. Huang Fuchun looked at Di Beichun curiously. Whether it was Di Beichun or Bailey Hongzhuang, they were both influential figures. Although he had already seen them on the ancient battlefield, he was still curious about them. Along the way, his big brother had told him that young Master Di and the others were very good people. His big brother was willing to go through fire and water for them. He had always had some doubts in his heart, but after seeing Di Beichun's amiable and approachable appearance, he suddenly didn't feel strange and nervous. This person was really a very good big brother. Young master, let me introduce you. This is Qin Wan. The woman was wearing a light red peony jade brocade robe with a collar and narrow sleeves. She was wearing a white pleated skirt with colorful embroidery. She was wearing 3 embroidered golden plum blossoms and bamboo leaves. Her thick and shiny long hair was combed into a unique bun with a double-knot tortoise-shell flower hairpin. The hairpin swayed slightly when she smiled. She looked more beautiful than flowers. As soon as Qin Wan appeared, she was noticed by Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun. This was an elegant and shy woman. Standing beside the tall and strong Huang Futing, she looked petite and cute. With just a casual glance, they could see that Huang Futing loved Qin Wan, loved Qin. There was a big difference in their figures. Was a perfect match when they stood, was a perfect match when they stood as well as when they stood, was a perfect match, is. Miss Wan, we have heard of your name a long time ago. Di Beichun smiled faintly. With you here, Huang Futing will be more at ease in the future. Hearing Di Beichun's words, Qin Wan couldn't help but glance at Huang Futing. However, she saw that Huang Futing was taking it for granted. Her cheeks suddenly flushed. Thank you, young Master Di, for taking care of Huang Futing. If it weren't for you, I'm afraid I wouldn't have the chance to see him. Qin Wan was grateful to the 2 people in front of her from the bottom of her heart. Chapter 6042. Huang Futing had never been a person who gave up on himself, but he had drifted outside for too long. The only thing he could do was to let the dark attribute cultivators who were being bullied huddle together for warmth. But if he wanted the dark attribute cultivators to completely stand up, only Di Beichun could do it. Even if the Dark Assembly hadn't been established yet, he felt that he had already stood up. Di Beichun quietly glanced at Huang Futing and said, "The heavens have destined you two to be together." Looking at Huang Futing and Qin Wan's happy appearance, Bailey Hongzhuang also felt happy from the bottom of her heart. In order to welcome Miss Wan and young Master Chun, how about we go to Drunken Origin Tower for a drink? Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichun with a sweet smile. Since Huang Futing had returned, they could start preparing. Di Beichun nodded. Madam, you can make the decision. Huang Futing and the other two followed behind the two with smiles on their faces. Then, many thanks to young Master and Madam. Big brother, young Master D, and the others are really like you said. They don't put on airs at all. Huang Fu-chun breathed a sigh of relief. With his status in the family, he had never been bullied before. He really wanted to follow his big brother, but if the other party didn't like him, he didn't know what to do. However, the problem he had been worried about along the way didn't seem to be a problem at all after seeing Di Beichun. Di Beichun didn't show the slightest doubt or dissatisfaction towards him. It was as if he had seen a family member. Immersed in this relaxed and comfortable atmosphere, he felt his whole body relax. I've told you not to worry. Huang Futing shook his head, but the corners of his mouth couldn't help but rise. Young Master and Madam are very good people. There won't be any problems at all, so you can rest assured. Huang Fu-chun nodded slightly. I believe you now. Drunken Origin Tower. Bailey Hongzhuang's group of 5 sat down in a private room. Everyone was very familiar with Emperor Cloud City. Di Beichun handed the task of ordering to Huang Futing. He didn't know much about Huang Fu-chun and Qin Wan, so he naturally didn't know their tastes. After Huang Futing finished ordering, Di Beichun ordered 2 of Bailey Hongzhuang's favorite snacks. Young Master, I heard a piece of news. Xiao So seems to be pregnant. It was not until the door to the private room closed that Huang Futing began to talk about what he had learned recently. How did you know? Di Beichun was a little surprised. The Jun family and the Xiao family had hidden this information very deeply. Not many people knew about this situation. Hearing Di Beichun's words, Huang Futing was also stunned. Little Lord, you already know? Di Beichun nodded. I heard the news not long ago. I got this news by accident. I know a friend who is a doctor. Xiao Seiwu's maidservant once went to buy medicine from him. That's how I got to know. So that's how it is. Di Beichun understood. Paper couldn't wrap fire. No matter how much the Xiao family wanted to cover up this news, it was inevitable that it would be leaked. Calculating the time when Xiao Sou was pregnant, I think this child may not be Jun Lingxuan's, but Qing Devil's. Chapter 6043. It can't be. Qin Wan couldn't believe it. She didn't have much contact with Xiao Sou, but as the former Saintess of Light, she was very famous. Since Bailey Hongzhuang became the Saintess of Light, Xiao Sou's previous glory had disappeared. However, love was very important in the heart of every woman. How could Xiao Sou do such a thing? Looking at Qin Wan-er's incredulous look, Huang Futing shook his head. Xiao Sou's situation is different. No one knows whether she has feelings for Jun Lingxuan or not. Qing Devil is from the Immortal region. I think Xiao Sou has no resistance to him. She has even fallen in love with him for a long time. Yes. Di Beichun looked calm. She has long known that Qing Devil is not Jun Lingxuan, but she has been protecting him. When we attacked, she even risked her life to save him. From this point, a lot of things have been revealed. It was because of Xiao Sou's action that they were very sure that her feelings for Qing Devil were not ordinary. We also think that it is very likely that this is Qing Devil's child. Bailey Hongzhuang looked thoughtful. She took a sip of tea and said, so, Xiao Sou will definitely give birth to this child. No matter from the perspective of liking Qing Devil or from the situation of the Jun family and the Xiao family, Xiao Sou would make this decision. Although this made everyone very surprised and emotional, after thinking about it carefully, many things could be understood. Young Master, what's your plan now? Huang Futing looked serious. Since he followed Di Beichun, his ideas had completely changed. He didn't want to follow the Dark Sacred Assembly, but Di Beichun. Therefore, no matter whether it was the Dark Sacred Assembly or the Di family, he would try his best to help. Let's put the matters of the Jun family and the Xiao family aside for the time being. After everything is ready, let's announce the establishment of the Dark Sacred Assembly, Di Beichun said slowly, with an elegant and confident smile on his lips. As soon as he said this, Huang Futing's eyes also flashed with a dazzling luster like stars, bright and excited. "Young master, are you really ready?" Since the day he followed Di Beichun, he had been looking forward to the establishment of the Dark Sacred Assembly. Just thinking about it, he couldn't help but be excited. And now, this day was really coming. One could imagine the excitement in his heart. Di Beichun nodded. The Dark Sacred Assembly's establishment. Now that everyone has been through the baptism of the Dark Temple, this is a God-given opportunity. Everyone is prepared for so long just for this day. I hope that everyone will not have to worry about their own attributes from now on. He understood that after going to the celestial realm, the problems and difficulties would be even greater. However, at least in the upper realm, he had to first complete his master's dying wish. "Young master," Huang Futing's eyes flashed. He knew very well that whether the Dark Sacred Assembly was established or not didn't have much impact on Di Beichun. With his identity and status, he didn't need to bear all of this, nor did he need to suffer the criticism of others. However, he was willing to do all of this for the sake of darkness attribute cultivators. How could they not be moved by this? Not only him, but almost all the brothers and sisters of the Dark Sacred Assembly had the same idea. People's hearts were always relative. Chapter 6044. While you were away, everyone had already prepared everything needed for the Sacred Assembly. Later, when we go back, we can see if there's anything we missed. Then, we can choose a suitable day to announce the establishment. His extraordinarily handsome face exuded an innate air of nobility. It was clearly a simple sentence, but when it came out of his mouth, it carried an indescribable confidence, causing everyone to involuntarily believe that all of this would be completed smoothly. Once the Dark Sacred Assembly is announced, it will definitely cause an uproar in the upper realm. "Young master, have you thought about it?" Huang Futing was silent for a moment. No matter how surprised he was about this idea, his rationality told him that all of this was never simple. When the time came, the counterattack might be beyond their imagination. If this matter was so easy to achieve, then the dark attribute cultivators would not have been struggling at death's door for so many years. Even if everyone opposes it, what's there to be afraid of? His faint voice was full of confidence. A trace of pride and fierceness flashed in the depths of Di Beichun's eyes. An incomparably proud aura quietly circulated, with open-mindedness and indifference. From a moment he made this decision, he knew that this situation could not be avoided. He had long been mentally prepared. Not only him, but Hong Zhuang and the entire Di family were also prepared. Huang Futing, Huang Fuchun, and Qin Wan all looked at Di Beichun in shock. Facing such a heroic and ambitious Di Beichun, they suddenly felt that their thoughts were too narrow. Perhaps it was because they had always been restrained that they could not reach Di Beichun's height. Yes, with such strength at such a young age, he should do whatever he wanted to do boldly. There was no point in being timid. Huang Fuchen's eyes lit up. He only felt that his blood was ignited. He had never seen such a fearless person. Even if it was his elder brother, he always had to consider the interests of the family and had many concerns. However, there was no trace of hesitation on Di Beichun's body at all. He was so magnanimous that it made them feel ashamed of their inferiority. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. "Since this matter is inevitable, there's no need to worry so much." "You're right. I was thinking too much." Huang Futing breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that there was no need for him to remind them. The young master and madam had already thought everything through. He had been worried that everyone's efforts during this period of time would be defeated in a short period of time under the opposition of the secular world. However, he also understood that the wise Di Beichun had probably already thought of all these situations. He felt a little more confident. "I will also pay attention to the Holy Light Assembly during this period." Bailey Hongzhuang's expression darkened. As the Saint of Light, she understood the situation better than anyone else. Among all the guilds, the Holy Light Guild had the most opinions. However, she was the Holy Maiden of the Light. With her mediating between them, things would eventually be better. As long as the Holy Light Assembly did not object, he believed that the various large guilds would not object for long. Miss Hong Zhuang, I really admire you. Qin Wer could not help but admire her. Facing such a situation, Bailey Hong Zhuang was under a lot of pressure. When the time came, she was afraid that all the spearheads would be pointed at her. Chapter 6045. Hearing Qin Er's words, Bailey Hong Zhuang also chuckled. Your courage and decisiveness are what everyone admires. For so many years, she had always held onto one belief, which was to be with Huang Futing. She even tried her best to get the letter of divorce. In the eyes of many people, this was an incredible thing. Qin Er shook her head. This is just the courage of a little girl. It's completely different from yours. Her betrayal of everything was just running away from home. After leaving the Qin family and the Huangfu family, she still had other places to go. In this vast upper realm, she could easily find a place for herself to stay. As long as she concealed her identity and changed her life, she could live the life she wanted. Bailey Hong Zhuang was different. She was now the focus of attention. When she stood beside Di Beichun, it was really like betraying the whole world for one person. She might even lose the position of the Holy Maiden. This kind of abandonment was unimaginable for ordinary people. She was very likely to be pointed at and criticized by everyone. Bailey Hong Zhuang smiled faintly. Her exquisite face was filled with a sunny and open-minded smile. At that moment, she was magnificent. Actually, to me, these are not important. If the Holy Assembly opposes it, then I won't be the Holy Maiden. In her heart, other than the people she cared about, she could give up everything else. The position of the Holy Maiden was far less important than Di Beichun in her heart. Following Bailey Hong Zhuang's words, Huang Futing and the other two were shocked. Perhaps only Bailey Hong Zhuang could say such words, right? Recalling how much Xiao Shou valued the position of the Holy Maiden, and then looking at Bailey Hong Zhuang's indifferent appearance, it was really ironic. But it was such a Bailey Hong Zhuang that exuded a charming charm. I also want to join the Dark Assembly, Huang Fu-chun said excitedly. He had to join such a sacred assembly. I also want to join, Qin Er said with a smile. Dark Sanctum. Now, everyone in the Dark Sacred Assembly had smiles on their faces. They all knew that the day they had been looking forward to was getting closer and closer. Brother Huangfu has already gone to look for the young master today. I think they might be discussing the date of the Sacred Assembly's establishment. It's very possible. Young master said that he wants to get this done within a year. Just thinking about it makes me excited. Actually, even if the Sacred Assembly doesn't exist, I'm already very satisfied. A cultivator's face was filled with a contented smile. Back then, they did not have any cultivation methods and could only be bullied by others. It had only been a short time, but everyone's strength had increased by leaps and bounds. That was especially true after their trip to the Darkness Temple. Everyone could sense that their rate of cultivation was much faster than before. This kind of rapid improvement and the feeling of a broad future filled everyone with anticipation. As long as they continued to cultivate like this, they would not need to fear cultivators of other attributes in the future. Because the strong were respected. Big Brother Mu, Zhao Jian, and the others are outside the Holy Palace. At this moment, a cultivator quickly walked in from outside the hall and reported what he had seen with a complicated expression. Hearing this, the expressions of everyone in the Holy Palace changed a little. Chapter 6046. However, Zhao Jian had always been a little arrogant because he was originally from a good family. In addition, his strength was relatively outstanding among everyone, so there were many cultivators who followed him. When Huang Futing proposed to follow Di Beichun, Zhao Jian was very dissatisfied and was the first to stand up and oppose. However, at that time, Huang Futing was also very insistent. Everyone hoped to find a better way out, so most people decided to believe in Huang Futing. At that time, Zhao Jian was already very dissatisfied. So when Bewitching came here, Zhao Jian took his people and left without hesitation. Now that they thought about it, they only felt that Huang Futing was really far-sighted to find a young master like Bewitching for them. Otherwise, they would still be in the same situation as before and would never be able to hold their heads up high. Zhao Jian's decision at that time was really wrong. If he had been with them at that time, his cultivation would be very high now. Let's go out and have a look. Mu Yangshi's face was slightly gloomy. When the young master and Huang Futing were not here, he was the one who made the decisions in the Dark Sacred Assembly. Zhao Jian looked at the black building in front of him and had a guess in his mind. Ever since he left, he had been waiting to see Huang Futing make a fool of himself. He didn't like Huang Futing because this guy's leadership and influence made him very unhappy. In the past, most cultivators followed him, but since Huang Futing appeared quietly, more people began to believe in Huang Futing. So from then on, he had already been on bad terms with Huang Futing. As the time passed, he didn't see Huang Futing and the others, nor did he see any other cultivators complaining. This made him feel very strange, so he had been paying attention to the situation in Emperor Cloud City. A while ago, he found that Huang Futing and the others seemed to have disappeared, and he couldn't find any trace of them at all. It wasn't until recently that they saw a familiar figure in the Emperor Cloud City. They followed them all the way and came here. Seeing the huge and magnificent black building in front of them, everyone's mood was a little complicated. Almost at the moment when he saw the black building, a guess had already appeared in his mind. Could it be that what Bewitching said back then was true? Was he really going to establish the Dark Sacred Assembly? Such a building seemed to only lack the name of the Dark Society. Just as he was deep in thought, Mu Yangshi had already led this group of cultivators to the entrance. Zhao Jian, long time no see, Mu Yangshi said slowly with a bright smile on his face. Seeing the familiar Mu Yangshi, Zhao Jian was slightly taken aback as a complicated look flashed across his eyes. This was because he saw a kind of arrogance and confidence on the faces of Mu Yangshi and the others. Perhaps confidence was not a big deal for others, but for dark attribute practitioners like them, confidence was the most extravagant thing. Even when everyone gathered together and he was confident in his own strength, he did not have such confidence that came from his bones. It had only been slightly more than a year. What exactly had happened? Why was everyone in front of him in high spirits? When the cultivators behind Zhao Jian saw this scene, they felt a huge difference in their hearts. Chapter 6047. Zhao Jian could sense the complicated feelings of the people behind him. Even he could not help but feel disappointed, let alone the others. Why? Why are you guys here? Zhao Jian asked tentatively. The building in front of them looked like a huge sum of money, and the value of it must have far exceeded their imagination. Obviously, Huang Futing and the rest could not have built such a building on their own. After thinking about it carefully, apart from Bewitching, no one else could have done it. The cultivators in the Darkness Sacred Hall looked at each other when they heard Zhao Jian's words. They pondered how they should respond. Undoubtedly, everyone had complicated feelings towards Zhao Jian and the rest. In the past, they were indeed a group, but ever since they chose to leave that day, many things had changed. Too many things had happened in the past year, and they were no longer the people who needed to cower and hide everywhere. Mu Yangshi was Huang Futing's right-hand man. Now that Bewitching and Huang Futing were not here, he was naturally in charge of handling this matter. We're only staying here temporarily. Staying here? Zhao Jian raised his eyebrows. How could they be allowed to stay in such a building? However, Mu Yangshi did not seem to hear the question in his question at all. He only nodded calmly, as if he had no intention of talking to him. There was silence. Both parties were silent, and the atmosphere was extremely awkward. Are you still following young Master D? That's right. Mu Yangshi nodded. He felt proud from the bottom of his heart when he mentioned Bewitching. Young Master D was a godlike existence in their hearts. If they had not made this decision back then, they would still be like Zhao Jian and the rest, drifting around without a fixed place to stay. Zhao Jian's heart sank. In fact, he already knew the answer long ago. Initially, he thought that Deep Beichun, as the husband of the Saintess of Light, would never help a dark attribute cultivator, even if he was a dark attribute cultivator himself. He had been waiting for the news that the Holy Assembly had captured Huang Futing and the rest. Although it was a pity to him, it at least proved that he had made a wise decision. If he had not brought everyone away, they would have been wiped out. However, he had waited for so long without receiving any news. From then on, he had already guessed some things. And now, when he saw everyone appear here again with confident smiles on their faces, he felt that he might have missed out on something very important. Big Brother Mu, what are you doing here? I feel that your cultivation has improved a lot. That's right. How did your cultivation increase so much? While Zhao Jian was hesitating, the others couldn't help but voice their doubts. They were both darkness attribute cultivators. Back then, they had always wanted to improve their cultivation, but they couldn't find a way to cultivate the darkness attribute. Although he had been cultivating ever since he left, the speed of his improvement was extremely slow. However, just by standing there, they could clearly feel that the auras of Mu Yangshi and the others were much stronger than before. Chapter 6048. Faced with the curious questions from the people behind Zhao Jian, the cultivators in the Sacred Assembly remained silent. Now that the Dark Sacred Assembly was about to be established, they did not want to complicate matters before that. Back then, when Zhao Jian chose to leave, it proved that they had chosen another path. If they were to reveal this matter now, they would not be able to accept it if something went wrong and affected the young lord. We've just been cultivating, Mu Yangshi said slowly. We've been cultivating too, but your aura is much stronger than ours now. Could it be that you found the cultivation method of the dark attribute? Or did young Lord D tell you the method that he knows? Zhao Jian pretended to be innocent and asked his doubts. He felt that a brand new path had appeared in front of him. No matter what, he had to get to the bottom of this matter today. Back then, most of the people here could not be compared to him. However, in just a year's time, these people's cultivation had surpassed his. How could he accept this? It was too late to regret what had happened in the past. The most important thing for him now was to find a way to increase his strength. Obviously, even if it was Huang Futing, it was impossible for him to find the cultivation method. The only possibility was Di Beichun. This was because among the known dark attribute cultivators, Di Beichun was undoubtedly the most outstanding one. He did not seem to be affected at all, and his cultivation had never fallen behind. Previously, we went to the ancient battlefield to train and obtain some opportunities there. That's why everyone's strength has increased, Mu Yangshi answered, avoiding the main point and dwelling on the trivial. Seeing that Mu Yangshi did not seem to want to talk to him, Zhao Jian was annoyed. So, you went to the ancient battlefield. That's amazing. Zhao Jian thought for a moment and said directly, Mu Yangshi, I'd like to meet young Lord D. Can you introduce me? Hearing that, Mu Yangshi frowned. Zhao Jian, have you forgotten how you spoke to young Lord back then? He remembered clearly that Zhao Jian was not polite at all back then. He even said that everything that Di Beichun did was a lie. The situation back then was very ugly. If it was not for Huang Futing, who stabilized the situation, they might not be where they were today. Back then, Zhao Jian didn't hold back at all when he left. Does he want to come back? How can there be such a cheap thing? He had always been conceited and arrogant, thinking that he was great. In my opinion, he must be regretting it now. If he hadn't gone against Big Brother Huang Fu, he wouldn't have fallen to such a state now. Zhao Jian's face gradually turned ugly as he listened to everyone's discussion. Indeed, he regretted his actions back then. Now that the Di family's reputation had soared, it seemed that Ozhou was about to surpass the other families. Although he didn't understand why Di Beichun wanted to help them, since he had done so, those who followed him were blessed. I know that I was wrong in the past. Considering our past relationship, can you introduce me to him? Zhao Jian lowered his voice. Even if he was faced with everyone's questioning and mocking gazes, he didn't care. Chapter 6049. Looking at Zhao Jian's humble appearance, a trace of hesitation flashed in Mu Yangshi's eyes. The current Zhao Jian was obviously very different from before. In fact, even he couldn't help but feel that it was a pity. If Zhao Jian hadn't been so impulsive back then, he should be very strong now. He would become the person second only to Huang Futing in the Dark Sacred Assembly. Mu Yangshi's second-in-command position would also belong to him. Should he agree or not? The young master was already very busy. In order to establish the Dark Sacred Assembly, he had already spent a lot of effort. He didn't know if the young master would be willing to see Zhao Jian again. If this would make the young master feel troubled, then he would rather not agree. Mu Yangshi, it's just a referral. Aren't you too stingy if you're not willing? Yeah, our friendship back then was pretty good. Now that you're doing well, you're ignoring us. Isn't that too realistic? Are you looking down on us because you're doing well? The cultivators behind Zhao Jian were all dissatisfied. Right now, they were envious of Mu Yangshi and the others from the bottom of their hearts. If they could also obtain a way to increase their strength, if they had such strong strength now, then their lives wouldn't be so difficult. There was a kind of loss. People like them had unknowingly been freed from their predicament, but they were still here and hadn't changed. Equals, that's not what we meant. Then what do you mean? Zhao Jian's face also became gloomy. He had already lowered himself to this extent, but Mu Yangshi still didn't relent. The anger in his heart had long been uncontrollable. If you're not willing to help, then I'll find a way myself. Mu Yangshi, what happened? When Bewitching and the others returned to the Dark Sacred Assembly from the restaurant, they saw an extremely lively scene in front of them. From afar, they could only see a group of cultivators gathered outside the gate of the Sacred Assembly. This situation made them very puzzled. Now wasn't the time for the news to spread. Usually, everyone would stay in the Sacred Assembly and rarely come out. At this moment, everyone was gathered outside the door. It was a huge commotion, and it was easy to attract the attention of others. The sudden voice immediately attracted everyone's attention. Mu Yangshi and the others all looked at Di Beichun and Bailey Hongzhuang respectfully and bowed. Young master, madam. Di Beichun and the others hastened their footsteps. Huang Futing, who originally thought that someone was looking for trouble, had a complicated expression when he saw Zhao Jian and the other familiar figures. Zhao Jian, what are you doing here? When he saw Huang Futing again, Zhao Jian's expression changed slightly. His malicious eyes were filled with resentment. If it wasn't for Huang Futing, he might not have made such an impulsive decision back then. It's none of your business. Zhao Jian glanced coldly at Huang Futing before turning his gaze to Di Beichun. His expression became warm and ingratiating. Young Lord Di, long time no see. Looking at the person in front of him, Di Beichun frowned slightly and said to Huang Futing, "Who is he?" Zhao Jian's face instantly flushed red. He heard Huang Futing say, "He's Zhao Jian." Zhao Jian? Huang Futing nodded. He's the one who questioned you and madam back then and left with his men. Chapter 6050. The calm words that came out of Di Beichun's mouth instantly became extremely lethal. Zhao Jian's face was still maintaining that fawning smile, but gradually, that smile could no longer be maintained. Contempt. This was utter contempt. Master. The male master really doesn't have any impression of unimportant people. Xiao Hei could not help but say. This was too much of a slap in the face. Zhao Jian appeared here at this moment. Even if he didn't say his motive, it could be seen from his expression that he regretted his original decision. So now he wanted to please Di Beichun and rejoin the team. However, a few simple words from Di Beichun directly blocked the other party's path. Hearing Xiao Hei's words, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but chuckle. This little fellow's skills were still too shallow. According to her understanding of Di Beichun, he would definitely not forget Zhao Jian. He must have said that on purpose. She still remembered clearly that when Zhao Jian and the rest left, Di Beichun was worried that Zhao Jian and the rest would cause trouble, and hence, he paid attention to them for a period of time. However, after everyone went to the ancient battlefield, no one paid attention to this anymore. This was because this fellow had disappeared for a long time. After not seeing him for such a long time, who knew when he would fall? Who would have thought that just when everyone had almost forgotten about him, this fellow would suddenly appear again? Huang Futing noticed that Zhao Jian's expression was getting uglier and felt that it was very interesting. He also did not believe that the young master's memory would be so bad. This was because during the time he spent with the young master, he was very clear about the young master's photographic memory. Although Zhao Jian was nothing in the young master's heart, the incident back then was not a small matter. The young master could not possibly forget. He said that on purpose to tease Zhao Jian. Young Master D, I'm here today because I have something to say to you. Although Zhao Jian felt that he had lost face, Di Beichun was his only hope right now. If he missed this opportunity, he would not have the chance to rise again in the future. Hence, no matter what, he could not let go of this opportunity. Say it, Di Beichun said. Here. Zhao Jian was stunned. His words were not suitable for everyone to hear. What's the problem? Di Beichun asked. Looking at Di Beichun's matter-of-fact expression, Zhao Jian only felt that it was not right to say it, but it was also not right to not say it. If he said these words in front of so many people, wouldn't he become a joke in the eyes of everyone in the future? Young Master D, may I have a word with you? Zhao Jian lowered his voice and looked awkward. If you want to say it, then say it. I still have things to do. Di Beichun turned around. His clear and handsome face revealed an indifference that kept people at a distance of 1,000 miles, making him appear even more noble and threatening. Seeing that Di Beichun did not hesitate to walk into the Holy Light Assembly, Zhao Jian could not help but feel anxious. He understood that what he had done in the past had indeed offended Di Beichun. Now, it was reasonable for Di Beichun to take him down a notch. Young Master D, it was indeed my fault in the past. I hope that you can forgive me and give me a chance. At the same time, the group of cultivators behind Zhao Jian agreed. Young Master D, it was our fault in the past. Please forgive us. We swear to be loyal to you in the future. We will never betray you. Chapter 6051. Please enter the text. Please note, according to the relevant laws and regulations of the country, please do not upload any pornographic, vulgar, political, or other illegal content. We will review and handle it according to the laws and regulations and report it. Hearing Zhao Jian's words, no one present was surprised at all. Wasn't the reason why he appeared here now so that he could join them again? When the Dark Sacred Assembly is established in the future, you can register as a member. Di Beichun's expression was calm, and the coldness in his eyes never dissipated. The Dark Sacred Assembly was the gathering place for all dark attribute cultivators, just like how every attribute cultivator would become a member of a corresponding attribute guild. Zhao Jian and the others were dark attribute, so it was reasonable for them to become members of the Dark Sacred Assembly. However, these people present were the backbone of the Dark Sacred Assembly. In the future, the Dark Sacred Assembly would spread throughout the entire upper realm, and many branch presidents and deacons would be selected from these people. This was because they were elders of the Light Sacred Assembly. After experiencing so many things, coupled with the contract they had signed, these people were trustworthy enough. These elders and members like Zhao Jian were two completely different situations. Are you really going to establish the Dark Sacred Assembly? Zhao Jian was slightly stunned. Although this idea had appeared in his mind long ago, when Di Beichun really mentioned it, he could not help but be shocked. The Dark Sacred Assembly was the dream of many of them. Usually, when they were daydreaming, they could not help but imagine the appearance of this day. However, now that someone was really planning to do it, how shocking was this? No one can say when it will be established in the future, Huang Futing said. Huang Futing said, if you can really wait until that day comes, then you can become a member. After Zhao Jian came back to his senses, he heard Huang Futing's words and could not help but ask, "Then why are all of you together now? Can't we join too?" Even if he did not know what Di Beichen and the others were planning, he knew that Huang Futing and the others had benefited a lot from Di Beichen. If they could join now, they could improve their current lives even faster. In the past year, they had been very poor, and it was difficult to even find a stable place. No. Di Beichun left a cold sentence and walked directly into the dark sacred assembly. Everyone had their own choices. If they made the wrong choice, they would have to pay the price. He had chosen all the paths himself, and he should bear the consequences of his actions. No. These two words were like a bucket of cold water that was poured over Zhao Jian's head. Even the cultivators behind him felt a chill run down their spines. Young Master Di. Zhao Jian was still unwilling to give up, but Di Beichun did not give him a chance to continue speaking. He walked straight into the sacred assembly. Seeing this, Zhao Jian also wanted to follow, but Huang Futing and the others directly blocked him at the door. Young Master has already made things very clear. Don't waste your time here. Huang Futing blocked Zhao Jian. As long as it was someone the young lord did not want to see, they would not let him appear in front of the young lord. Are you trying to take revenge on purpose? Zhao Jian looked at Huang Futing coldly, his voice cold. Huang Futing chuckled. I've never treated you as an opponent. Bang! The doors of the darkness sanctum closed, shutting Zhao Jian and the others out. Young lord, will Zhao Jian be trouble? Mu Yangshi's face was filled with worry. It was a critical moment now. If something went wrong at this time, wouldn't it be troublesome? Chapter 6052. Please enter the text. Please note, according to the requirements of the relevant laws and regulations of the country, please do not upload any pornographic, vulgar, political, or other illegal content. We will review and handle it according to the laws and regulations and report it. Once the Dark Sacred Assembly is established, trouble is inevitable. I hope that everyone is mentally prepared. No matter what kind of criticism and attacks we face, we must persist in our beliefs and not waver. Di Beichen's gaze swept across everyone with a serious and solemn expression. Hundreds of years ago, darkness attribute cultivators once caused a catastrophe in the upper realm. This caused everyone to have a deep misunderstanding of us. Although what happened back then had nothing to do with us, this is still a responsibility that we can't avoid. All pioneering works will definitely be criticized in the beginning, but as long as we succeed, many darkness attribute cultivators will find a home. We don't even have to worry about how our future generations will survive after awakening the darkness attribute. I want to know if you have this awareness. If not, you can choose to leave now. Every word Di Beichun said seemed to explode in everyone's hearts. In fact, they had been thinking more about the various benefits after the Dark Sacred Assembly was established. However, the problems that they might encounter when the Dark Sacred Assembly was established had been deliberately ignored by everyone. After Di Beichen's reminder, they also understood that before they could taste the fruits of victory, they would probably experience a very tragic scene. Everyone fell into silence, but no one chose to leave. Young Master, don't worry. We've long been prepared to die. No matter what happens, our firm beliefs will not change. As one of the cultivators stood out and voiced his opinion, the other cultivators also expressed their opinions one after another. Usually, we've always been looked down upon by everyone because of our attributes. It's even difficult for us to be upright. Only after following the young master did I find a new direction in life. Instead of dragging out a feeble existence, it's better to fight. I believe that if we follow the young master, we'll definitely succeed. But even if we fail, we won't have any complaints. Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze swept across everyone. They were clearly different faces, but everyone's expressions were so similar. Courage, struggle, indomitable, and fearless courage. It was as if nothing could break their morale. They were like the rising sun, unstoppable, feeling the hope and passion from everyone. Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but be affected by such emotions. Establishing the Dark Sacred Assembly was a pioneering work. Once it succeeded, he would change the structure of the upper realm. Huang Futing and Mu Yangshi looked at each other. They did not speak first because they wanted to see everyone's thoughts. Now that everyone was so determined, they were completely relieved. Di Beichun looked at everyone's performance with satisfaction, and his voice was a little more gentle. Since everyone is mentally prepared, don't be afraid of the risk. I will choose a suitable date. Within this month, the Dark Sacred Assembly will appear before the eyes of the world. Established, established, established. Everyone could not help but raise their hands and cheer. This was a day that they were looking forward to. It was also a day of violent storms, but they were not afraid. The storm would definitely come, but they were ready at any time. Chapter 6053. After being chased out of the door, Zhao Jian's expression was extremely gloomy. Usually, it was fine to receive such treatment from other people. However, when faced with cultivators of the same dark attribute, he was also treated with such disdain. This was simply too aggrieving. Di Beichun clearly remembered everything that had happened before. Initially, he did not understand, but now, he completely understood. This fellow was simply playing with him. We really made the wrong decision back then. If we had not left back then, we would not have ended up in this state now. I see that their strength has increased by more than just a little compared to before. Young Master D definitely has the cultivation method of the dark attribute, and has even told everyone, if we want to blame someone, we can only blame ourselves for being blind. We did not cherish such a good opportunity in front of us. Now, it's too late to regret. Everyone sighed. Previously, they did not know about this situation. Without comparison, there would be no harm. Now that they had seen it for themselves, the difference in their hearts could be imagined. Initially, everyone was in the same situation. Now, they had been left far behind. One could imagine that in another 1 or 2 years, this difference would be infinitely magnified. Zhao Jian, who was already in a terrible mood, heard everyone's discussion. He felt ashamed and angry at the same time. Were these fellows trying to push all the blame onto him? Damned Huang Futing. This is all because of him. Zhao Jian gritted his teeth. His eyes were filled with hatred and jealousy. This matter must be Huang Futing's doing. He doesn't want us to go in at all. Zhao Jian, what should we do now? Even though everyone was full of resentment toward Zhao Jian, at a time like this, there was no use in complaining. Finding a solution was the most important thing. Why don't we try to beg young Master D again? I think we should go and ask Huang Futing. Based on young Master D's performance just now, we can see that he values Huang Futing very much. If he's willing to speak up for us, our chances of winning will be much higher. Following the words of a cultivator, Zhao Jian's face was as gloomy as water. His dark eyes stared fixedly at the person who had spoken. The cold air in his eyes seemed to be able to freeze the person in an instant. The man was stunned. He also realized that he had said something wrong. To Zhao Jian, begging Huang Futing was probably the hardest thing to accept, even though it seemed like a very good idea to everyone else. I don't want to hear such words from you again. The man fell silent. No matter how unwilling he was, he had no other choice. Now, if he were to give up on this place, he would be the only one left. He really didn't know where to go. It's impossible for Huang Futing to help us. It's useless even if you beg him. Zhao Jian's voice was cold. Don't think that he would be so kind. Did you see him say anything for us from the start? Everyone lowered their eyes, their faces filled with disappointment. Since Huang Futing is so heartless, then we'll make them suffer. A ruthless look surfaced in Zhao Jian's eyes. They were so poor now. How could they watch Huang Futing and the others live happily? If they were going to die, they would die together. Chapter 6054. How could it be so easy to establish a dark sacred assembly? Zhao Jian chuckled. Even if Di Beichun is rich, This matter can't be solved with money alone. The entire upper realm will not allow the Dark Sacred Assembly to be established. Furthermore, it's not a dark guild, but a Dark Sacred Assembly. This is obviously a provocation to the Light Sacred Assembly. I think it's a good thing that we haven't joined yet. When the time comes, once the major forces object, they might just destroy this place. If we lose our lives, what's the point of being proud for a short while? After calming down, Zhao Jin quickly understood the crux of the matter. Bewitching and the others were definitely preparing for this matter. Moreover, they had even prepared a base of operations. It wouldn't be long before the actual establishment of the Dark Sacred Assembly. Such an action might sound hot-blooded, but thinking about it carefully, the pressure they would have to bear was not something ordinary people could bear. Hearing Zhao Jin's words, everyone present was slightly stunned. After thinking about it carefully, they felt that what he said made sense. That's right. If the people from the major guilds come looking for trouble, they won't be able to resist at all. Even if they have the D family's protection, I'm afraid it'll be very difficult, right? The D family already has enemies. I feel that this matter won't be so easy to succeed. Everyone looked at each other. If this matter were to spread, everyone would think that Bewitching was a madman. Even they couldn't understand why Bewitching would take such a huge risk to do such a thing. If he wasn't careful, not only would he lose his life, but he would also implicate the entire D family. Zhao Jin's gaze swept across everyone's faces. After noticing that everyone's resentment had lessened, he felt a lot more at ease. Zhao Jin, are you saying that you're going to ruin this matter? A man frowned as he looked at Zhao Jin. Zhao Jin raised his eyebrows and looked into the distance with a smug expression. Everyone knows about the enmity between the D family, the Xiao family, and the Jun family. I heard that the Xiao family and the Jun family are now at a disadvantage. However, if we tell them this news, as long as they take the opportunity to do something, they might be able to turn the tables. At that time, the ones with a headache will be Bewitching and Huang Futing. When he thought of Huang Futing's complacent look just now, he couldn't help but feel hatred. Why did this damned fellow have to live better than him? He wanted Huang Futing to live a miserable life. Just as Zhao Jin was feeling smug, he realized that there was no one around him who agreed with him. When he turned around, he realized that everyone was looking at him with complicated gazes. For a moment, he felt a little apprehensive and said in a daze, "Why are you all looking at me like that?" Zhao Jin, I really didn't expect you to have such thoughts. The man's eyes were filled with disappointment, as if he did not expect that the person he had followed for so long would have such thoughts. The establishment of the Dark Sacred Assembly is beneficial to all of us. Even if young Master D hasn't accepted us yet, he said that if the Dark Sacred Assembly is established, we can also become a member. With his status, there is no need for him to do so much. However, in order for us, who were of the dark element, to be able to live openly, he had to bear and sacrifice so much. To any darkness attribute cultivator, he was a great benefactor. Yet, you actually want to harm him and prevent the Dark Sacred Assembly from being established. Chapter 6055. He was not the only one. Everyone else looked at Zhao Jin in disbelief as well. In the past, when they followed Zhao Jin, it was because Zhao Jin was also a very idealistic person. Although he was not on good terms with Huang Futing back then, he was also working hard to change everyone's situation. Huang Futing came from a big family, while Zhao Jin came from a humble background. Everyone thought that they had more in common with him, which was why they had been following him. However, they did not know when it started, but they realized that Zhao Jin had changed. He was no longer the same person as before. Once the Dark Sacred Assembly is established, it'll be of great help to all of us. Such thoughts shouldn't exist at all. Zhao Jin, you're no longer the person we trusted in the past. Everyone shook their heads. Their feelings were extremely complicated. Even when they were rejected previously, they had never felt so disappointed before. It turned out that the person they had always trusted was so narrow-minded. Noticing everyone's expressions, Zhao Jian could not help but panic. He quickly waved his hand and explained, "It's not what you think it is. Listen to me. You don't have to say any more. I think our thoughts have changed. I'll take my leave first." The man waved his hand. He did not want to listen to Zhao Jian's excuses anymore. They had been together for so many years, so they knew the latter very well. Whether it was his gaze or his tone, it proved that Zhao Jian was serious about everything that he said earlier. The other cultivators wanted to leave, but they did not have the courage to do so alone. Now that everyone else was leaving, how could they hesitate at all? Zhao Jian stood on the spot in a daze. He felt as if he had been struck by lightning as he watched everyone leave. He wanted to ask everyone to stay, but he could not make a sound when he opened his mouth. This was because even he did not know how to explain everything. After Bailey Hongzhuang understood Di Beichen's plan, she did not hesitate and quickly headed to the Holy Light Assembly. Before the Dark Sacred Assembly was established, she had to figure out the Holy Light Assembly's thoughts. She knew that the Holy Light Assembly would definitely not like the Dark Sacred Assembly. However, it had been such a long time after all. Perhaps it was not that serious anymore. Of course, if the Holy Light Assembly was still so determined on this point, she felt that she had to discuss it with the president. She also had some feelings for the Holy Light Assembly. The president had always been very good to her. When the Jun family and the Shao family joined forces to attack her, the Sacred Assembly even helped her. No matter what, she had the responsibility to deal with these matters properly. If the Holy Light Assembly could not accept it, she could also resign from her position as the Holy Maiden of the Light. At the very least, she could not implicate the Holy Light Assembly. Di Beichen had planned to go with Bailey Hongzhuang because he was worried that something might happen along the way. This matter had a huge impact. One could imagine the president's reaction. If something went wrong, he wouldn't be at ease. However, Bailey Hongzhuang still refused. She believed that the guild leader wasn't that kind of person. Even if it was hard for the president to accept this, he would not do anything that would hurt him. If Di Beicheng went, it would be even more dangerous. Coming to the Holy Light Assembly again, looking at the holy building in front of her, Bailey Hongzhuang's lips raised a smile. Chapter 6056. As Bailey Hongzhuang walked into the Holy Light Assembly, all eyes fell on her with worship and surprise. The Holy Maiden of Light. That's the Holy Maiden of Light. I didn't expect us to be so lucky to have the opportunity to see the Holy Maiden of Light. She is really as beautiful as the rumors say. She is unforgettable. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced around the hall before walking towards the stairs. The attendant rushed to Bailey Hongzhuang's side and said respectfully, "Holy Maiden, are you going to see the president?" "Yes." Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly, the corners of her lips raised in a gentle arc. The attendant stared blankly at the flawless face in front of him. This spring-like smile seemed to be directly reflected in his heart, and he couldn't recover his senses for a while. Seeing that the attendant didn't respond, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help waving her hand in front of him. "The president should be here, right?" "Yes, yes." The attendant came back to his senses, his face flushed with embarrassment and nervousness. "But the president is now meeting a guest. I'll go and inform him first." "Okay." As soon as the voice fell, the attendant rushed up and disappeared in a blink of an eye. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help chuckling. This young man was really interesting. Bailey Hongzhuang walked into the room exclusive to the Holy Maiden of Light. Since the president was meeting a guest, she naturally wouldn't disturb him. It wouldn't be too late to see the president after the guest left. When Lu Hongwei heard that Bailey Hongzhuang had come, his eyes also lit up, and he looked at the man behind him with a smile. "Young Master Song, you're really lucky. The Holy Maiden happened to come to the guild today." Song Langtian breathed a sigh of relief after hearing this, and said with a smile, "Zhu Qing, the Holy Maiden's medical skills are extremely outstanding. With the enhancement of the Holy Maiden's crystal, I believe your problem will be solved." "I hope so." Song Zhuqing's lips curled into a smile, but it could still be seen from his gloomy eyes that he was not too optimistic. In fact, he had already given up hope, but his father was unwilling to give up and took him everywhere to seek medical treatment. Finally, they came to the Holy Light Assembly. The repeated disappointments made him feel very frustrated. Every time he saw a doctor, he was full of expectations, but the cruel reality beat him back again and again. He didn't want to be disappointed anymore, especially when he saw his father's tiredness because of him. He felt even more apologetic. Song Langtian already knew from Song Zhuqing's attitude that he didn't have much expectation, but he didn't think it was a bad thing to have such an attitude. The greater the hope, the greater the disappointment. Even he was unable to maintain such a calm state of mind because this was truly too torturous. Originally, he also had doubts about Bailey Hongzhuang's medical skills, but later, various situations showed that Bailey Hongzhuang might be the one with the best medical skills. So today, he had the cheek to bring Song Zhuqing here to seek medical treatment. In fact, he knew very well that Bailey Hongzhuang was not in the Holy Light Assembly at all, but he felt that it was not appropriate to go directly to the D family. After thinking about it, the only way was to ask President Liu to take them to the D family together. After all, he and President Liu had been friends for many years. Chapter 6057. Go and invite the Holy Maiden over. Yes, Bailey Hongzhuang had just entered the room. She thought it would take a while to wait for the president's guest to leave, but she didn't expect the waiter to come so soon. Holy Maiden, the president invites you over. Bailey Hongzhuang stood up and asked in confusion. The guest has left. No. The waiter shook his head. The president should want to introduce her to you. As Bailey Hongzhuang walked into the president's office, she found that there were two other figures in the room besides President Liu. She felt very familiar with the elder in front of her. She seemed to have seen him at the succession ceremony of the Holy Maiden of Light, and the other young man's face was somewhat similar to him. If there was no accident, the two should be father and son. While Bailey Hongzhuang was sizing him up, the other party was also sizing her up. Holy Maiden of Light, I haven't seen you for a long time since I saw you at the succession ceremony. Song Langtian smiled, his deep eyes full of appreciation. During this trip to the ancient battlefield, Bailey Hongzhuang's reputation had become more and more resounding, not only because of her identity as the Holy Maiden of Light, but also because of her own strength. Hongzhuang, this is President Song of the Metal Attribute Guild. He once came to see your succession ceremony, but there were too many people at that time, so your impression may not be very clear. Liu Hongwei saw that Bailey Hongzhuang was a little puzzled, so he explained aloud. Greetings, President Song. Bailey Hongzhuang cupped her hands, smiling elegantly like a lotus, but her heart was a little complicated. She didn't expect to see the president of the other attributes today. Maybe it won't be long before they meet on the battlefield. Holy Maiden is too polite. Song Langtian cupped his hands. In fact, we came here today to ask for a favor. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang subconsciously looked at Liu Hongwei. Shouldn't the president be the one asking for a favor? Liu Hongwei smiled faintly. President Song's son was seriously injured by a monster beast when he was training previously. He was poisoned with a very strange poison, so his cultivation couldn't progress. Over the years, they have thought of many ways, but they have never been able to solve it. Your medical skills have always been recognized, so they want to see if you have any ideas. I see. Bailey Hongzhuang came to a realization. She turned to look at Song Zhuqing again. No wonder she felt that he was unhappy when she first saw him. This was the first time Song Zhuqing had met Bailey Hongzhuang. Over the past few years, because his health had not improved, he had gradually changed from a cheerful personality to a depressed one. Back then, the succession ceremony had been a great event in the upper realm, but he hadn't come to observe it. This was because he didn't want to see his former friends and competitors. He didn't want to see everyone's sympathetic or mocking gazes. This would make him feel very uncomfortable. He had long heard of Bailey Hongzhuang's beauty, but he did not pay much attention to it. After all, with her identity as the Saint of Light, the rumors were always exaggerated. Everyone's evaluation of Xiao Sou was the same. As far as he was concerned, Xiao Sou was indeed a beauty. However, if she were to be described as a devastatingly beautiful woman, then it would be slightly inappropriate. However, the beautiful figure in front of him really made him believe in the word beauty. You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.